Hello everyone, welcome to another video review. This is a Transformers Masterpiece movie series, MPM-12 Optimus Prime from the Bumblebee movie. You can see he's there in his red semi-truck mode. We'll put it off to the side because we're going to look at the box real quick. And yep, it is a MPM box, so you got Transformers logo there, you got the product shots here, you got MPM-12 and Optimus and Autobot and 8 Plus Hasbro and Takara Tomy and the Masterpiece movie series. Up here you got a, Masterpiece movie series, and you got a product shot and what movie it's from and all that stuff there. And on this side you have a shot of both the figure in both modes there, and on the bottom you have barcode actually and a Masterpiece thing, and on the back here you have some product shots and what it includes. And hey, it's articulated hands and articulated chest, and it's like, yeah, it's one of those things they don't have a lot to say. And made me in Vietnam, and comes with instructions, which are pretty easy to understand. Actually, very easy. The only thing I would say is maybe a little small, but beyond that, actually pretty easy. So yeah, MPM-12 Optimus from the Bumblebee movie, in his truck mode. So yeah, this figure is it's definitely inspired a lot of discussion, shall we say. People have been kind of hoping for an official Hasbro or Takara MPM figure, because before this we've had pretty much Toy World and knockoffs, and that's pretty much it. And Toy World's a little too big, honestly. And yeah, this guy's definitely got some criticism, shall we say. So yeah, you can see right here is very much red and blue. You can see all that. It's got the striping and all that stuff. You got the nice grille, picked out headlights, blue tinted clear windows all the way around. Got an Autobot logo there. He's got tires, which are plastic. This is die-cast right here. This bit right here is die-cast. I think there might be a little bit more somewhere else, but I'm not entirely certain. You got the back end, which is unpainted. You got the taillights picked out in the molding right there. You got some gray back here, and yeah, you got his shins chilling out there, or pieces of his shins. You got a little ladder thing and painted rims, which are silverish gray, and you got the striping and all that stuff. So biggest thing you'll probably notice right off the bat is this right here, the quote unquote the cat ears. Yeah, I think that's the biggest flaw of this thing, is right here, this stuff. I'm not sure why they weren't able to do anything about that. They become the shoulder pieces in the robot mode, and they do have a particular shape in the robot mode. I'm not sure why they didn't have like a hinge or something, like if they could just fold down, or something else, or they tweaked it a little bit, or maybe made it spin around. I don't know what they could have done exactly, but the fact it's like just sticking out is a little disappointing. I don't mind it too much personally, just because I think it's funny looking, and just because I got Catboy Prime, and that just winds up being hilarious in its own way. But so in that regard, I don't mind it, but it is actually a problem. I'm not going to downplay it. It is an actual, in general, like, this is a masterpiece. Why in the world do we have pieces of the robot mode just sticking out right there? The back end, people criticize the back end because I guess this hollow space right here, I don't think this is really particularly much of a problem. I think the vents here are kind of like just sticking out like this, are just kind of a little bit of a problem. But again, a somewhat emptier back end on a semi-truck is not a problem in my opinion, just because semi-trucks tend to be mostly in the back, mostly just metal bars, wires, and wheels, because there's not a whole lot back there. It's very utilitarian. So the fact that there's even this much is actually too much, but also has to have somewhere to go. But I don't really see this as much of an issue, but this part of this stuff sticking up is a little annoying, and I wish there was some better way like this. Even if it was just, I think something that could compromise this stuff, like had a swivel, so it could just twist in and just fill in that area, but I'm not sure if the shape would allow that, but that's how it is. I think you see these slots back here. He's got tabs on the gun. The gun can fold up like this, and just tab in just like that and store. Again, some people don't like how it stores. I don't think it's a problem. Some people wish it could store officially like in here, which I can understand that. I can understand wishing that. You can kind of just, cradle it back there. It's not like it's gonna, if you're rolling it around, it's not gonna move much. So if you really just want to, fill that in, you can do that, although they still got stuff sticking out. But hey, that's how it is. That's how they decided to do it. He does roll pretty well though, by the way. So there's that. But yeah. I do like these little bits. And also it's that weird thing of, because of so many changes, last second changes, the Bumblebee movie, he doesn't really match much of anything, because the original version original truck he's supposed to be is not match. He doesn't really match the movie totally. Yeah, there's that. Oh, there's this thing right here. So a lot of people thought that this front stripe was silver and this stripe was white, and they're complaining, oh, Hasbro, you screwed up. It's a mismatch. And of course, it's always Hasbro, never Takara. But actually, if you look, this front stripe is also white. What this is supposed to be, I think, is supposed to be like weathering. You see, it's kind of there on the. It's kind of this there. It's like there. It's like this weathering effect. I think it's supposed to. The idea is this is supposed to be weathered. So what happens is, it's supposed to be white and silver, and this is supposed to be this weathered corner. But because it just stops there, it looks like it's just a silver stripe that stops. But yeah, it's clear that it's supposed to be just weathering, that wasn't really applied correctly. So it's criticism of it is coming from a different direction. It makes more sense. Yeah. Other than that stuff, though, I think it rolls pretty well. It looks pretty solid. It's pretty solid overall. It's tabs together really nicely. The only thing I would say is possibly you can see here in the front sometimes there's weird gappage issues and can't quite figure out why, but there's sometimes just gaps like right here in the seam, and this right here, this little panel right here has a tendency to not sit all the way flush right here in the front. But other than that, it's actually a pretty solid truck. One little bonus thing they did is if you see this space right here between the feet here is just the right size for a MPM-40 or MP-44's trailer. This little thing just goes right in, and it you got that. Some people might complain this gap's too big, but if you remember in the movie there was actually a significant gap between the truck and the trailer, so that's actually kind of accurate. So yeah, you can do that if you have MP-44, a very expensive thing. So yeah, that's the thing. If you have them both, then yeah, it still will rotate and everything. So you got that if you want that. Now comparisons real quick. Now, speaking of the whole MP-44 thing, I don't have MP-44 in here. I grabbed MP-49 because it's just more convenient for me to grab MP-49 because of location. This is on my literally just sits on my desk. So size-wise, you can see, color-wise, it's it's still going to be red and blue semi-truck, but you can see size-wise are actually roughly comparable. He's MP is a little longer. Yeah, the trailers, the truck, the actual cabs are roughly the same size. All this extends a lot back a little further. So, yeah, also got very different styles up front. But yeah, that gives you an idea. The previous MPM Optimus, MPM-4, see somewhat different scales. You can see this is a bit of a smaller truck. This would actually be, if in scale, this would be noticeably larger. But you can see them next to each other right there. I think slightly askew. You also see that, yes, I actually got my MPM-4 actually somewhat all tabbed together with no modding. Yeah. No modding, got it all tabbed together. Yes, it's the real deal, not a knockoff. Unfortunately, I don't have MPM-7 Bumblebee, but I do have the MPM-3, so I don't have a Masterpiece scale movie Bumblebee. Yeah, fun one. But yeah, there's I guess a Camaro, which is kind of closest to the 70s Camaro was at the end of the movie. So this thing, the Camaro's a little on the big side, but hey, yeah, it's a bit on the big side. I mean, Camaro's not this big compared to a semi-truck, but hey, there's that. Normally, I don't do this sort of comparison, but because of the relative lack of options for, official options for Bumblebee Movie Optimus, here he is with the Studio Series version, which you can see is a very different style of truck because the things changed from between and during production. So there's that. You can see very different thing, and it still has the. You could argue, yes, this has a better back end, although you can never get this part to tab in properly. Never could. But yeah, you can see that there's slightly different shades of red going on. This has silver striping, but yeah, that's a thing. There's that. Overall, the alt mode is kind of like, they made a pretty good effort, but just kind of stumbled at the finish line. Just a couple little details would have fixed this. Again, the cat ear thing. If they did something with that, that could have been, that could have been one big problem avoided. A lot of people don't like the back end. I personally don't mind it, but again, your mileage may vary on that. But it's one of those things where a lot of this is really well done. It's just a couple little things just kind of hurt it a bit, if that makes sense. It's mostly just this. It's mostly just the cat ear thing. If it wasn't for that, this would actually be, I think, a very solid alt mode. I think this is just on things, just a kind of a weird thing of like, because this is bad, something that we don't need something else to call bad. But it's unfortunate that that's a one thing can ruin it for people. And I've heard some people actually just cut theirs off. It's like, well, congratulations, you ruined the robot mode. But there's already things coming to, I guess, fix this sort of thing. So I'm going to go ahead and transform this guy, and then we'll go ahead and talk about the robot mode. All right, so it's robot mode. Transformation is actually pretty straightforward and pretty clever for the most part. It's actually pretty clever and smooth. I actually think the transformation is really, really well done, and it's probably one of the highlights of the figure, honestly. But definitely, I think transforms really well. And the robot mode here actually is very close to movie accurate. There's a couple quibbles here and there, I think, which are a little annoying, but actually for the most part, again, still think it's very solid. And you can see, he's got a lot of the little detailing and little tech detailings in there. With the interspersed between the red and the blue. It's got a very nice finish here on the thighs, which made people think this was die cast, although it's apparently just plastic. You got the the blue down here with the venting and all that stuff. He's got his weird little feet. And stuff cleans up pretty well. This mostly looks pretty well, although technically it's a little wider than it's supposed to be, but again. And of course you got this stuff right here. Some people don't like this, the panels just chilling out on the back of the arms there, because it makes the arms look noticeably wider, well, at least part of it anyway. And there's this striping which on the shoulders, which unfortunately it's accurate to his Cybertronian mode, not his Earth mode. When he's on Earth, it's should be a single stripe, not two stripes, but minor things like that. And a couple things. I know people complain about the head size. The head is actually kind of narrow, but again, for me personally, does not bother me that much. And down here, some people have complained about these pegs just sticking out with like that. It's like I kind of get the complaint, but at the same time, it's like, well, it's got to stick together somehow. That to me is not a huge problem, but I can see why some people might not like the idea of those pegs just sticking out down there. On that though, I think it's a very, very solid robot overall. I feel it's I just really like how it looks. And there's one other thing I'll get to with this complaint about. The gun here, of course, can unfold, and then got the usual masterpiece thing of tab on the handle, and there's a slot on the hand, which holds it actually pretty securely. Actually very secure, I would say. Holds the gun pretty securely, so that's not going anywhere. It's really nice that. Yeah, I think it just looks real nice. I just really like this. I think one of those things like people were so negative about this thing going into it that I was like, oh. When I got it, I was like, is this really gonna disappoint me? And it's like, no. I'm like, I think people are blowing things out of proportion, which not surprising. It's the internet, and basically calling this a trash figure when it's really not. It's just got a couple little minor problems, and those are pretty easy for me. Pretty easy to look past, and well, a lot of them are also being fixed by upgrade kits, I guess. I'm just, and some people complain about the thighs. I don't know what the problem with the thighs is. I think the thighs are fine, so I'm not really sure what the problem is there, unless it's just there's no thigh swivel, which, well, that's actually pretty easy remedy. Yeah, I think he genuinely just looks really good. It's just got a really nice finish overall and whatnot. The big thing here is one other thing is he has got light piping in his eyes, but well, I don't know. You can see there's no. This is a really brightly lit studio and setup, and there's like nothing coming through his eyes. Those are still dead. You have to like hold it right. You have to have like a light right behind his head. I don't have anything up really currently convenient for that. So it's just like, yeah, you have to have a like light right behind there, because you can see there's transparent plastic back here, but just the way it's done is just so terribly, it's terrible that so terrible it's like just nothing comes through really, unless again you have a light like literally like right behind his head. So he'd benefit from a light inside his head, but I don't have one of those either. I think personally it just looks good enough that I can overlook most of the flaws, and because for me most of those are minor, so it's like, I don't know, not the end of the world for me, I guess. Personally, I just think he just generally looks real good. Right, so articulation head is I think it's on a dual swivel thing, so you got left and right, up and down, although mostly down. It doesn't have a whole lot of backwards, which that's one thing I actually personally do not like. I wish you could look backwards further. Shoulders can, go all the way around. They're kind of just friction there. And then here's the other thing that people don't like is these shoulders outward. They're ratcheted, but you can see this part does not move with this part. Even like in the movie and everything, this part did move outward. This shoulder block moved outward, but here they decided to leave it as a sag piece and have the shoulder inside it, unfortunately. So again, it's one of those things that's mostly aesthetic, but so because the shoulder does fully function, these are spring loaded to get out of the way. These are actually spring loaded. You can see, they're spring loaded. So it does still work. It just doesn't look right, I guess. And there is, again, that's another one of the things that there's upgrade kits trying to fix this. There's a bicep swivel, which is really tight. That's one thing that's also weird. This bicep swivel is weirdly tight, and this seems to be a universal thing. He's got ratcheted there, and then, he actually got to curl this far because there's a secondary joint. But yeah, very tight ratchet there. And then, so we got the curl. Got a wrist swivel. He's got this one knuckle joint. That's it. There's no individuals there, and this thumb's on a ball joint, so you got lefts and rights and all that stuff. He does have a waist swivel. Very unhindered, although it's kind of weird, that weird offset one, so the more you rotate it, the weirder it gets. You can see that. But, most poses, you're not going to really notice that. Hips, ratchet forward. This hip skirt's out of the way. All these hip skirts get out of the way, including the back here. Go back out that far. Nice and ratchet. Softer ratchet going all the way out. He's got a knee swivel. He does not have a thigh swivel, but he does have a knee swivel. So if that's bothering you, well, sorry, but he does have a swivel of some sort, just different than most people expect. About 90 degrees of ratcheting knees. And then down here at the feet, you got some degree of ankle tilt, about that far before things start banging into stuff. You got a little tiny bit of forward and back, but not really a whole lot. Yeah, decent amount of posability. All that stuff. So yeah, there's that whole thing. He's got a decent amount of posability. He can look pretty good while posing. One thing is, I think maybe there's a little too much spacing between those ratchets. You can see so there is that, although it isn't difficult to get him kind of between ratchets. So yeah. One other accessory. He does have this. You can open this up and hey, look, there's a matrix, which goes in there real nice and good. So it's a little bit of a pain to get it out, if I'm going to be honest. But it goes in there pretty solid, so you don't have to worry about it falling out or anything. Like I said, real solid. I'm afraid I don't want to break this spudger. Of course, it's launched. But yeah, matrix. See, it is actually, this matrix is die cast. Does he want to focus on the matrix? There's a die-cast matrix. Mine, I'm not sure if that's paint chipping or actually, I think that's excess paint right there. It might be. Yeah. Very good size. Somewhat modified version of, it's more squared off version of what you see in G1. On the back here is a peg because it goes into the chest, but yeah. He can hold this. They made sure to do that. They even show you it's one of the big features he has. He can definitely, unlike a lot of these, that's the thing I've noticed a lot of these matrices anymore, just they can't actually hold them. But he can absolutely hold it. Okay, actually there's an individual finger. For some reason it was just fused on that one, but yeah, there's an individual finger, by the way you can see. Just you can't point it, so it's kind of one of those, it's useless. Mostly. So you can absolutely hold the matrix, which is nice. Very nice. Don't get that very much anymore, but yeah, you can absolutely hold it, which is real good. Like that. Like that a lot. Again, there's that is that individual one finger joint, which is largely useless. There's this weird thing because of transformation, it's easy. This scratch is so tight, it's accidentally easy to just do that. Because this just gives, there's a lock-in point, but it does give easier than this ratchet. So you kind of have to do this weird thing to get it to ratchet back into place, at least on the left arm. The right arm is a little better, but it's not much better. Yeah, matrix, and again, just open that up and you can just plug that back in. Make sure the little bump parts are on the top. Goes in there, it's in solid. And there's a slight butterflying as well. It's just, I didn't really mention it because it's so minute that you can barely use it, but it's there. Just very slight. Just because of sculpting. So there's all the stuff he comes with because he doesn't come with very many accessories. Comparisons though. First off, here is the Studio Series Optimus. You can see the one size difference, but you can see, yeah, this one is technically much more movie accurate, but you know, this one just still has a bit of a charm to him, although you can see just all the stuff sticking out behind him and whatnot, and just the lack of color. They'll do their premium version or whatever they call it, premium finish, perfect, whatever, perfect finish, I think, yeah. You can see, you know, people complain about these arms, and then they're like, oh, these arms are fine though. Whether, you know, the trucks just, you know, bits are just stacked up behind, that's fine. But it's a different price point, yeah, and I don't know. People get weird about it. It's like they're totally like the arms look bad on this one, and then they'll talk about the Studio Series looks better, and the arms are arguably worse. Yes, I know it is cheaper, so yeah, it's excusable there, but still kind of weird. Here he is with, I guess, again, MPM-49. Again, it was just easier to grab this one than MP-44. But yeah, you can see I got the knee all weird on that side, but you can see they're roughly the same height, which makes sense. And here he is next to MPM-4, the first version of the movie Optimus, and again, roughly the same height. He might be a smidge taller, but roughly the same height there. So there's that. This one is much transforms much easier, I think, but yeah, not that much easier. MPM-3 Bumblebee, because again, don't have the MPM-7 version, but you know, should be roughly, that's actually, from what I remember from the end of the movie, this should be roughly the correct height, give or take maybe a bit, but for me, it's close enough. I need to get like Transform Elements version or something, because I was going to get the Transform, what was it? Transcraft version, but turns out that one tends to break really easily. All right, so a couple other things I forgot to mention earlier. First off, on the wrists themselves can actually tilt a bit right here. Because of transformation, they can tilt a bit, which also leads to another thing, which is a lot of people complain the wrists are a bit loose and have a tendency to droop when the gun's in the hand. See, it starts drooping if I start to shake it, but if it's just sitting there, it's fine. So mine is on a little bit on the loose side, but I mean, you have to, yeah, shake it pretty hard before it starts really drooping. So on mine, that's not a really huge problem. At least on mine, that's not a huge problem. So the wrists are pretty much fine on mine, but it is something to watch for if they drip a bit. Apparently just tighten that screw right there and it should make things fine. The other thing is, of course, gun storage. You just fold up the gun. Yeah, much like when you store it in the truck mode, and there's another tab right here, single tab right there, and you can store back here. There's a slot right there, and underneath also the temperature stage port, which none of my stages or stands will work with this because it's too heavy. And you just kind of plug it back there and store. Guess either way, really. So that's the storage for the gun if you don't want them holding it in robot mode. So yeah, that's just a couple things I kind of forgot to mention earlier. So there you go. So yeah, that's MPM-12 Optimus. I genuinely think he's good. I know there's a lot of stuff that I showed you, at least all the negative points, at least is all the ones I could think of, all the negative points people have about him. So, make your mind up from there. But I personally think he's a great figure. Actually, I feel like he's a pretty decent bang for your buck. It's about $135 or so, if I remember correctly. Yeah, he's about $135 at Target anyway. A lot of the places, like I know Chosen Prime has him in stock for like $190. He's not worth $190. But $135 is actually, I think, a pretty solid. You get a pretty solid masterpiece scale and Bumblebee movie Optimus. I feel he's a fairly solid figure. He poses really well. The transformation is nice and clean and clever. The truck mode, does have the unfortunate thing with the cat ears, but I think overall this is a pretty solid thing, because otherwise your options are for masterpiece scale, you got Toy World, which is actually too big and really complicated nightmare transformation and doesn't even fully tab together in robot mode. And you got the knockoffs of the Studio Series one, which are, I guess some of them are the correct size and are roughly this size, but they're all of some I've seen have some sort of weird issue or something. That's something that just personally bothers me. Like I know one of them has the windows at the wrong angle for the chest, and one of them apparently has paint that just comes off on your in your hands. So that's fun. But I don't know. I think this overall is the best. If you want a transforming Bumblebee movie Optimus, this is your best bang for your buck. I think, even including the knockoffs and the Toy World version, at least for masterpiece grade. I think this is it's a good solid thing. I think a lot of his the negative points which he does have, again. The shoulders are kind of weird. His head is kind of, the light piping sucks on the head and all that stuff. Those are the ones that personally bother me. Is the head light piping sucks, and this articulation is kind of iffy. But he's got again, a couple negative points, but overall still really, I think, worth picking up if you're at all interested in this scale of this particular version of Optimus. If you're all interested, he's a good solid pick and worth hunting down, I think. Just don't pay the weird, like, near $200 that a lot of places are charging for him online. He's not worth almost $200. But he's a solid, $135. Absolutely solid. Definitely worth a look at. And I think that's it for me babbling, because, go get him if you're at all interested. I think you'll find that a lot of the complaints are way overblown. But that's it for this video. I hope you found it interesting and informative. I hope you like, comment, and subscribe. Check out my Twitter. I'm at Nemesis Prime 1. Check out my Patreon and check out my coffee. And I shall see you next time with another video review.